ጌታ ሆይ እንዲመጡ ከየትኛውም አይነት መሰናክል እንድትጋርዳቸው እንድትጠብቃቸው እነሱንም ለአንተ አደራ አሳልፈን እንሰጣለን። ስለ ሁሉ ስም የተባረከ ይሁን። ጊዜውን ተረከብ በጌታ በኢየሱስ ክርስቶስ ስም አሜን።
Okay. Last week, we have already covered the adjective pronouns and numerals of first and third declension adjectives. We have discussed a lot of portions, and then I have also given you an assignment to practice that lesson. So we have discussed, by the way, these adjectives are, as we know, adjectives describe a noun, a pronoun, or another adjective. And the declension is like that of the noun, and their function also, and the gender also goes together with the gender of the noun. And they have, as we discussed before, they have three functions: attributive, substantival, and predicative usage. We've already discussed that one. And before a week ago, we have already discussed about what does that mean, third declension nouns. Especially, they have stem formative instead of similar pattern endings. So they have been identified by the stems. Then the stems may be consonant or a vowel. So we have already discussed this and other related things. Then we apply the third declension pattern in order to decline some unique adjectives like that of pas, pasapan. Then there are also significant differences in their meaning and their usage and so on. So we have already, how do we compare adjectives? We have already discussed that one, and then we have already indicated some theological nuances related to that of the usage of adjectives. So today we start with the contraction of liquid verbs, the contraction and liquid verbs, and we will discuss that one. And then we will start also what are the participles. We know participles, but a little bit Greek participles have their own unique patterns. And what does that mean, participle? How do we discern them? And what are their usage and in relation to the noun and so on? We'll discuss that one. But before that, we'll discuss the contractions and then liquid verbs. What are the liquid verbs and what are the contractions that happened? Okay. First of all, what does that mean, contraction? We have knowledge of what does that mean, contraction. We have before, in our previous lessons, we have this knowledge. When, for example, we remember that when in the aorist active for active tense, when epsilon augment is added to if the stem starts with the vowel and then epsilon augment is added to the vowel initial stem, then the stem will undergoes contraction, or else it can be lengthened or it can be contracted. So we have this knowledge, and we have already repeatedly asking how do we know whether this is dropped or not, and so we, especially when we, in order to make future tense, as you know, future tenses have simply formed by adding sigma to the stem of the verb. And when sigma is added, then if the stem ends with a vowel, then sigma is added to the vowel. There may be contraction, lengthen, and then also they undergoes this thing. This we call it that contraction. So contract verbs are Greek verbs whose stem ends in a consonant vowel. Whose the stem ends in the consonant vowel. What are these consonant vowels? Alpha, epsilon, and omicron. If the stem ends with these vowels, then when the final stem vowels come in contact with connecting vowels, uh, then these connecting vowels undergoes, especially we know that how, when and how these connecting vowels are added. We have already the knowledge of that. When the stem ends with mu or nu, then the next connecting vowel will be omicron. In other place we use epsilon. So this is a rule that we need to remember. Okay, when the stem ends with this short vowels, then under that, or when we add the connecting vowels to that stem, how do we consider or how do we handle that change or that contraction or that stem format changes? So this is the rule we need to follow. Okay, this is the contraction is most of the time happen in the present and imperfect tenses. The imperfect tense, as you know, in the imperfect tense, the contraction will be happen during the augment making, or when epsilon augment is added to the beginning. This the alpha, epsilon, or omicron, or el theta ending, or if the stem starts with these letters, when augment is added to that letter, augment is epsilon plus this alpha, epsilon, or iota, or omicron, then the contraction will be happen. So this merging produces a long vowel or diphthong. The result may be a long vowel or diphthong. Does that mean diphthong when two vowels come together, they form diphthong. They are well-known diphthongs in Greek. So these connecting vowels will be lengthened to or short or formed or used to form these diphthongs. So the resulting form we call it that contraction. For example, play and ite. No, ite is a second person singular in the active voice, and then play. Then this is the stem ends with epsilon, as we discussed before. Then this one is the epsilon is added, or epsilon is used as a connecting vowel before any Greek alphabet other than mu and no. So we use this epsilon. So how do we handle when, since this philo ends with this short vowel, and then the connecting vowel is epsilon? how do we handle these two epsilons? How do you pronounce that epsilon? So then epsilon comes with epsilon. It will be epsilon circumflex. This one is epsilon and iota. Then make that this one is circumflex. Just then epsilon plus epsilon will be epsilon iota. So the contraction follows the predicative rules, which allows you to recognize the contracted form and trace them back to their original stems. The rule includes combinations such as epsilon with alpha, it becomes alpha. Epsilon with epsilon, it becomes epsilon iota, and omicron or the diphthong omicron epsilon will be this. In this case, vowels drop out entirely, disappearing before a long vowel or diphthong, while in other they merge to make omega or epsilon. Okay. As we discussed before, this is happened during the present active, imperfect active, and the present middle passive, or else imperfect middle or passive. We have this knowledge. So this is happened when epsilon is added to the short or the vowel ending stem. When epsilon is added, or else whatever it is, when that happens, what will be the result? Okay, we have this rule before that. We have, for example, alpha contraction, as we discussed before. We have three types of contraction. We have raised alpha, epsilon, or omicron. So how do we handle if the stem ends with these three vowels, and then the connecting vowel that comes after this short vowels, how do we handle that one? So this is the rule. For example, alpha comes with E sound, epsilon and eta, it will be alpha. Alpha is retained or alpha is compensated. For example, tema plus ete, temate. Alpha and epsilon combined and alpha will be retained. But there is a circumflex over the alpha. Then take care that whether the presence of circumflex or not, it may determine whether the tense is future or present. So we should be take care about this specific words or specific alphabet or specific words that ends with these letters. We have this specific course is there for the liquid verb, but we have also this stem endings. ምናልባት ኤክሰርሳይዝ ቴክስት ቡካችን ላይ ብዙ ኤክሰርሳይሶች አሉ። እነዛን ኤክሰርሳይሶች መመልከት ይቻላል። ለማንኛውም በሩል ደረጃ የምናስቀምጠው ግልጽ ሊሆንልን የሚገባው ለምሳሌ እነዚህ በአንድ የግሪክ verb, since we have been dealing with the verb, ends with these short vowels, and then if we want to add the connecting vowels after this ending words, how do we handle that thing? ማለት በእንደዚህ የሚጨርሱ ነገር ግን ኮኔክቲንግ ቫልስ ኤፕሲሎን እና ኦሚክሮን ስንጠቀም ወደ የትኛው ሌተር ነው ወይ ሌንግዝን ይሆናሉ ወይም ደግሞ ዲፍታንግ ይሆናሉ ወይም ደግሞ ወደ ሌላ ቫውል ይቀየራሉ ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ የትኛውና የትኛው ቫውሎች ሲመጡ ነው ወደ የትኛው ይቀየራል የሚለው ነገር እንግዲህ ሶስት ሩል ቴክስት ቡካችን ላይ እንደምናየው 3 ሩሎችን ነው ያስቀምጠልን። እነዚህ 3 ሩሎች አንደኛው አልፋ ኮንትራክት ቨርብስ ያ ማለት በአልፋ የሚጨርሱ ማለታችን ነው። እዚህ ጋር በአልፋ ነው ሁሉም የሚጨርሰው። ስለዚህ እነዚህን ኮኔክቲንግ ቫውልስ ወይንም ኒውትራል ሞርፊምስ በዚህ በአልፋ በሚጨርስ ቨርብ ላይ ስንጨምር ምን ይሆናል? ኦኬ ስለዚህ ኤፕሲሎን ኢ ሳውንድ ያላቸው 2 ናቸው። ኤፕሲሎን እና ኢታ ናቸው። ስለዚህ አልፋ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። ወይንም እዚህ ጋር ኢ ሳውንድ ኤፕሲሎን ኦር ኢታ ዊል ቢ ዲስ እዚህ ጋር የምናገኘው ማለት ነው። ቃሉ በአልፋ ነው የጨረሰው። ለዛ ነው አልፋ ኮንትራክት ቨርብ ነው። ነገር ግን እዚህ ጋር ኮኔክት የምናደርገው ኤፕሲሎን ኦር ኦሚክሮን ነው። ኦሬልስ ደግሞ ኢታ ቢሆን ወይንም ኮኔክቲንግ ቫውላችን 2 ናቸው በሚል ነገር ግን ሩል ነው ይሄኛው። አዜ ሩል መከተል አለብን። ቲማ ፕላስ ኢቴ ቲማቴ ለምሳሌ ኡሲን ቢሆን ኦሚክሮን እናገኛለን። ኡሲን ሰርድ ፐርሰን ፕሉራል ላይ ብንሄድ ወይንም ደግሞ ኦሜን ፈርስት ፐርሰን ፕሉራል ላይ ዊ ብንሄድ ኦሚክሮን እናገኛለን። አልፋ እና በኦ ሳውንድ ወይም ኦ ኮኔክቲንግ ቫውል ምን ይሆናል? ኦሜጋ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። አልፋ ዊዝ ኦ ሳውንድ ዊል ቢ ኦሜጋ። አልፋ ዊዝ ኤኒ ኮምቢኔሽን ዊዝ ኢዮታ will be subscribed. We call it that improper diphthong and then we call it that iota subscript. እነዚህን ሩሎች መሸምደድ መያዝና መለማመድ ይፈልጋል። ኦኬ ሞር ኤክሰርሳይዝ ብዙ ኤክሰርሳይዞች አሉላችሁ ቴክስት ቡካችሁ ላይ። ሌላው ኤፕሲሎን ኮንትራክት ቨርብስ ምንለው ነው። if the stem ends with epsilon, how do we handle that change? Epsilon comes with epsilon, it becomes epsilon iota, or else epsilon or else iota. Epsilon iota will become epsilon iota. And we already have, for example, lete epsilon with epsilon becomes epsilon iota. Then we should be take care about the internal changes happen after the connecting vowel. Exactly. So that is the case. That's why we are dealing with this. So epsilon combined with omicron or this diphthong, it will be omicron and epsilon. Epsilon plus eta, it will be eta. This is how do we? This is the ማለት ይሄ መያዣ መንገዳችንን ሊሆነን ብዬ ነው። Think of epsilon as a weak, then since it is a weak, then if it is combined with other alphabet or other vowels, then it will disappear or else it will be lengthened to the next vowel or the next diphthong. Epsilon before any long vowel or diphthong drop out. Epsilon will drop out, and then epsilon is lengthened to these diphthongs. In other cases, since epsilon is weak. So this is one of the እንዴት አድርገን እንያዝ የሚለው ነገር ኤፕሲሎን ብቻውን አይቆምም። ሁሉም ቦታ ላይ እንዳያችሁት ኤፕሲሎን ብቻውን አይቆምም። ስለዚህ assume that epsilon is weak, then epsilon disappears after the combination. So epsilon plus omicron will be omicron plus epsilon, epsilon plus እዛ ቅድም ለምሳሌ አልፋ ራሱን ሪቴን ያደርጋል። አልፋ ነው እነዚህ ሳውንዶች ከኢ ሳውንዶች ጋር ስቲል አልፋ ሲጨመር ምንም አይነት ኢምፓክት አያመጣም ማለት ነው። ኢ ሳውንዶች ላይ ዊክ ስለሆኑ አልፋ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። ኦ ሳውንድ ላይ ወደሚቀጥለው ኦ ሳውንድ ይቀየራል ማለት ነው። ኦ ሳውንዶቹ እነዚህ ናቸው። ኦሜጋ ኦልሶ ኦ ሳውንድ። ሶ አልፋ ዊዝ ኦ ሳውንድ then it becomes omega, and then alpha combined with iota, it becomes iota subscript. We know that one, iota subscript. So alpha combination with iota, it will becomes iota subscript. Like that, epsilon is weak, so it will epsilon disappears or turn into epsilon iota or this diphthong or else eta. So eta before any long vowel or diphthong drop out, play. Then the other rule is that omicron contract verbs, omicron plus long vowel. The long vowels are, we should be take care. This is a long vowel. When we pronounce these letters or these alphabets, we stay just እነዚህን ስንጠራ ኢታ ሎንግ ነው። ኦሜጋ not omicron, omega. We have this long vowels, short vowels, omicron, and alpha can be either short or not long. Alpha and iota can be either short, sorry, alpha or epsilon can be either short or long, depends on. But eta and omega are always long and omicron is always short. So omicron with long vowels, these long vowels are eta or omega, then it will be omega. Omicron with short vowel, it's omicron diphthong, omicron epsilon. Omicron with any combination with iota, this is omicron iota. For example, dule plus omega, dulo. Take care about the circumflex here. This omega and these two O sounds are the long O sound will be retained, and then the change is indicated by the circumflex here. Omicron and omicron comes together. Omicron diphthong is U, and the circumflex is there over the epsilon. Dule plus this diphthong, then any combination with iota, it says any combination with iota, it will be O like turns into O or O. O is round, so it loves this circumference. And we need to learn by our hearts that we need to memorize that one, since it is a rule. But these are the tips in order to memorize this rule, these three rules. Okay, the other thing that we need to be take care about is those stems in this with these liquid consonants. We call that liquids. These liquid consonants are lambda, mu, nu, and rho. If the stem ends with these liquid consonants, what will happen when the connecting vowels are added to that stem? So how do we handle that one? Unlike contract verbs, vowels, where vowels contraction cause difficulties, liquid verbs create challenge when a sigma is added in the future or first year tense forms. So our concern is that how do we handle when the future tense or the first future tense formatting, whether the future or first aorist formatting, not second aorist, because second aorist is similar to imperfect, and then the stem is like imperfective stem. or is similar to imperfect stem, but there is internal stem change. So that's why the improper or improper edit, we call that, doesn't follow the rule. First edit is simply edit. Yeah, so in order to make a size added, we know that. So Lusa, for example, this is the edit active indicative. So there is sigma, sa, sigma, and alpha is there. But how do we handle sigma? Since our concern is epsilon or iota or else sigma. But epsilon and iota is the contract verb for the contraction. But for that of liquid verbs, we have our headache is sigma. How do we handle when sigma is added to these liquid verbs or the verbs that ends with these 4 letters or 4 alphabets? How do we handle that one? Sigma clashes with a final liquid consonant, leading to phonological change such as dropping or modifying the consonant, compulsory lengthening of vowel or contraction. So what will happen? There will be phonological change. What are there? These phonological changes, such dropping of the sigma or modifying the consonant, compulsory lengthening of the vowel or contraction. This will happen when sigma is added to the stem that ends with liquid consonants. For example, we have different examples, but one of the examples I will remain, meno is I will remain, then the future indicative. The only difference, the future indicative of meno, this one is the present stem, and the present tense, not will, I remain, but the future one is only have the difference of the circumflex only. This is because of the rule. Since it ends with the stem ends with no, mo, or lo, if the stem ends with one of these 4 letters or alphabets, then the change will be happen when sigma is added to next to stem. So the only difference is the circumflex. The rest is similar. Although meno is a present tense, verb I remain its future differs slightly in spelling or circumflex on omega. The difference highlights the special morphological liquid verbs. Okay. For example, in the future active and the middle form of the liquid verbs, how do we handle the sigma or the change? For example, sigma cannot sit comfortably next to liquid consonant. What are these liquid consonants? We have discussed that one. Liquid consonants, as we discussed before, these are liquid consonants, lambda, mono, or rho. This one is liquid consonants. So sigma is when sigma is added to this liquid consonant ending word, then sigma is not, or the liquid consonant is not comfortable next to sigma. So sigma is replaced by epsilon plus sigma. Then when the personal ending is added, the sigma is dropped out. Then finally we use circumflex as, for example, stem plus future formative. What is a future formative? Sigma is a future formative, but the sigma is replaced by epsilon sigma. So before this the consonant ending stems, just replace the stem with the epsilon sigma. And finally drop out the epsilon. Then, for example, meno is to remain. When epsilon is drop out, this will be there. If it is not drop out, there's no epsilon sigma, or this is without dropout, then sigma drop out, then epsilon and iota will be lengthened to by the rule of contraction. We have already discussed about what does that mean, that epsilon comes with the rule epsilon plus omicron, epsilon plus omicron will be epsilon diphthong. So epsilon diphthong, but there is a circumflex over there. Then this is the future, or the future active form. So the future active form, or the future active is similar to, no, the future active, simply the future active is not the middle one. The middle is similar to that of the passive. Okay, future active indicates paradigm of meno, singular meno. Then this is the circumflex is over there because of this change, and then menomenen, we will remain, as we discussed in this one is a first person singular, this one is the first person plural, this one is the second person singular and the second person plural, this one third person singular, and so on. So look carefully by the changes and then memorize that change. But these liquid verbs are not a lot of verbs, but there are some verbs, not more than 10 or something else, right? But these verbs are important in our Greek New Testament. So, for example, in the aorist, this one is the changes from the first aorist, the future active, the future active. But when we come to the first aorist, how do we handle that one? In order to change the present active to the future active, the only difference is only the addition of sigma. Okay, future time was morpheme. We call that future time morpheme. Okay, what about the sa? This is the aorist. How do we handle that one? Inside added before that liquid consonant stems. So aorist forms handle liquid differently. The sigma of sa of the aorist is usually dropped. Then, as we discussed before, sigma is also dropped before the future active tenses, like that of future active tenses. The sa of, or the sigma of sa is also dropped out. So the main vowel in the stem length to the compensate. Then the remaining will be compensation. It will undergoes, for example, we have already discussed about how do we contract these vowels. Then the remaining rule is governed by the rule of contraction. We have already discussed about three rules: the alpha rule, the epsilon rule, or else the omicron rule. So the remaining pattern will be governed by the rule. And then in some rare cases, the double lambda is reduced to single lambda. For example, apangelion. when two gammas come together, one of the gamma will be pronounced as nig. So apangelion, this one, double gamma is there, apangelion. And if you want to form this, the persterist form of apangelion, that means you need to insert sa to the stem. So one of the lambda will be dropped out, pangelia, pangela. So some iota may be also dropped out. Just I think one of the hardest thing in Greek is that how do we handle these differences? But I've given you some information about these changes, and then if they have similar patterns, we have already built them as a rule. If such we don't have such a pattern, then our our tech our kid must be doing a lot of exercise and will be familiar with that rule or that chain. So how do we handle that one? So we have these rules, and then we must follow these rules, and then we must practice by reading our New Testament Greek. Aorist indicative, we know that the concept. We know the concept. How do we handle this liquid verbs? How do we handle what is the rule to be followed in our contraction? When will be happen this contraction? When contraction will be happen during the addition of connecting vowels, omicron or epsilon. What does that mean? When will be happen that one? When the connecting vowels are added before no or mo, this omicron, and in the rest, in the other place, use epsilon. So this is happened when in order to form the present tense. What about the future tense? The future tense when the stem ends with the stem consonant, liquid consonants. What are these liquid consonants? Liquid consonants are consonant stems that ends with the lambda, rho, nu, or mu. This is a liquid consonant. If the stem ends with this alphabet, then that will be considered as the liquid verbs. What are the liquid verbs? Liquid verbs have stems that are ends with lambda, mu, nu, or this rho. So how to handle when sigma is added to this stem? Then sigma is added when sigma is added in the future active tense in order to convert in order to form our from present active to future active tense, we need to insert or we need to add sigma or the future active format. So when sigma is added, what will be happen? Then sigma will be drop out. One of the rules is sigma is drop as a sigma and then follow the rule, the contraction rule. What about the rest? The rest is we will press sigma in our first aorist since size there. First aorist is determined by this sub. Okay. So the keys are liquid verbs in this way. This, as we discussed before, lambda, mu, or rho. Future tense, sigma is replaced, as we discussed. Sigma is drop out, and the rest is lengthened to, or the rest is followed or governed by the contraction rule. And then, in order to make that change, put the circumflex over there. Then resistance, sigma dropout, and ball length, compensatory change mark arrest. These forms are common in reading the text, less in composition recognizing and more important than memorizing every detail. We don't just we have this knowledge, and this is to give the role and to govern and to develop some rule. Okay. What are some of the words that, for example, we are angelo to angelo, evangelio is to proclaim. Angelo is announce. Aero is I take up. Apoptino. Apoptino is I kill. Apostilo is apostolos. You know, apostilo is to send. Hero is arise. So egero is arise. Kiro is I judge. Meno is abide. Piro is I saw. These are some of the liquid verbs that is in our textbook. So liquid verbs are rightly identified by their endings: lambda, rho, nu, and mu. So this is okay. If you have any question regarding liquid verb and contraction, you are welcome. ምናልባት እነዚህ ሩሎች ናቸው። እነዚህ ሩሎች ቅድም 3 ሩሎችን አንስተናል። ኮንትራክሽን ላይ ስንመጣ ብዙ ጊዜ ጠይቃችሁኝ ታውቃላችሁ እና ይሄ ለምን ሆነ፣ ይሄ ለምን ድሮፕ አውት ሆነ፣ ይሄኛው ለምን አጠረ፣ ይሄኛው ደግሞ ወደዚህ ለምን ተቀየረ ጥያቄ በእያንዳንዱ በምንሰራቸው ፓተርኖች ውስጥ የተለያዩ ቼንጆች እንዳሉ እያየን መተናል። እነዚህ ቼንጆች እንዴት ተፈጠሩ የሚል ጥያቄ ያስነሳል። ስለዚህ ሩሉስ ምንድን ነው? ገቨርን የምናደርገው እንዴት ነው? እንዴት ነው ኮንትራክሽን ሃንድል ሊደረግ ይችላል? ስለዚህ ሩሉ ይሄ ነው ማለት ነው። ኦሚክሮን ኦሬልስ ኢዮታ ኤፕሲሎን ኦሬልስ አልፋ። ሶ አልፋ ሩል we have there, epsilon rule we have there, omicron rule there. This is the rule of contraction. Contraction መች ነው የሚያጋጥመን? ኮኔክቲንግ ቫውልስ እንጨምር። ኮኔክቲንግ ቫውል መች ነው የምንጨምረው? Before nu or mu, add the omicron connecting vowel, and then in the rest place use epsilon. This is the rule. So what will happen if the stem ends with that short vowels, as we discussed before, alpha, epsilon, or else omicron? Then that is governed by the rule. Whereas that of the verbs, liquid verbs are verbs that ends with these 4 alphabets, as we discussed before. What are these 4 alphabets? These 4 alphabets are lambda, rho, mu, or nu. If the verb ends with these alphabets, that is categorized under liquid consonant. We call that liquid consonant. So what will happen when sigma or sa is added to the liquid consonant? In general, sigma is dropped out, and the remaining change will be governed by the rule of contraction. So how do we handle that one? Just practice and read the textbook. The textbook have given a lot of exercises there, and also discern the verbs that undergo these special changes. What are the verbs? I have already given you about 7 or 8 of the verbs. Okay. If you haven't any question regarding the contraction and liquid verbs, we'll go to the next lesson. If you have, you are welcome. This is to give an idea. Okay, the next lesson will be participate. Participles are verbal adjectives. They are verbal adjectives, but they have they are a little bit complicated, as we discussed before. But uh, we will do that systematically. We will recognize them systematically. Don't worry that one. I've been sharing. Okay, okay, participles. Okay. Let's wait a little bit. Yeah.
No.
ይታያል ሼር አረኩት
ብዙ ነገር ነው
ሊፕ ብለህ እንደገና ግባ
ይታያል እንዴ
አይታይም ብዙ ነገር
ሊፕ በለውና እንደገና ግባ ፕሬዘንቴሽኑ ዱፕሊኬት አድርጓል ስክሪኑን ሪፖስት ስላደረገው ሊፕ ብሎ ይልጣና ስቶፕ ሼሪንግ የሚለውን ያቆመውና ተመልሰ
አይታይም አይደል
ይላል ፓወርፖይንት ቀጥታ ብትከፍት ፓወርፖይንት ማየት እንችላለን ግን ይሄኛውን ኢንታየር ስክሪን ስላልከው ነው
sorry for the disturbance. አሁን ይታያል አይደል ፓወርፖይንት
ይታያል።
Okay. So as we discussed before, participles are verbal adjectives. They are grammatically hybrid. They have both the nature of or the properties of the verb and that of the adjectives. As we discussed before, adjectives can have communals with that of the nouns. Since adjective modified noun, so they have the pattern of they follow like that of the noun. They are declinable. That means they undergoes the declension. So first of all, what does that mean? Adjectives. As I told you before, adjectives are a little bit complicated, but we will handle that systematically. Just I will tell you how do we handle that one. Okay. As I said before, Greek participle function are declinable verbal adjectives. So the verbal adjective, I say the verbal adjective, they are also declinable. So verbal, they have the characters of verb and that of the adjective. Adjective, as I told you before, adjectives have the characteristics of that of the noun that they have modified. So we need to be careful about that one. As we discussed before, all nouns have these three things in common. For example, case, the nouns can undergo, they have a case, they have also number, and they have also, what else? Yeah, three things in common that we have in the nouns. So adjectives can share these three things, and they bring three things from that of the noun or the adjective part, and then two things from the verb. So ከቨርብስ ሁለት ነገሮችን ይወስዳሉ፣ ከናውን ደግሞ ሶስት ነገሮችን ይወስዳሉ። ከናውን የሚወስዱት ጀንደር፣ ነምበር አንድ ኬዝ፣ ከቨርብ የሚወስዱት ደግሞ ቴንስ እና ቮይስ ነው። ነገር ግን ቴንስ የምንለው አድጀክቲቭ ላይ they do not indicate time. They indicate only aspect. So adjective, these participles have only kind of the action or the aspect. They indicate the aspect. Since tense means the time of the action as well as the aspect of the action, as we discussed before. So tense means time and time plus aspect. So, but they do not indicate time. Rather, they indicate the aspect only. And they have also voice. Three voices are there: masculine, feminine, and neuter. We have already discussed these three voices in different declension patterns. First declension, second declension, and third declension. We have already discussed that one. And from first declension nouns are nouns, they undergo the feminine nouns. Typically, they are feminine nouns, and second declension nouns are nouns that are categorized under the masculine and the neuter nouns. And then if nouns have different stem formats, they are categorized under third declension nouns. Third declension nouns, in general, they have similar patterns as we discussed before. They have similar patterns. Third declension nouns are determined not by the nominative singulars, but they are determined by the genitive singular, or the stem is determined by the genitive singular, as we discussed before. So take care about these things and the other rest things. Then we'll discuss what are the adjectives. That in general we have three the three categories are there. I have summarized this all things in three. We will discuss that one. For example, present participles, they have present participle, whether present active or present middle, and that of aorist participles and perfect participles. We have three categories of participles are there. Present participle, aorist participle, and perfect participles. They have their own unique features, and we'll discuss that one. As I said, they can function like that of adjectives. We have already discussed about what are the function of adjectives. They can be used as substantival, as a substitute of noun, or as attributive, or as ascriptive or prescriptive, and predicative when if copula of the verb is implied or replaced or inserted, then we call predicative usage. So we have three uses of the usage of the adjectives as we discussed before. Like that of, or like an adjective, participles have also three functions. Like a verb, they are categorized under three: present participles, aorist participle, and perfect participles. So we have 6 things in participles. So that's why participles are verbal adjectives. They are declinable, or they can undergo declension, whether 2-1-2 declension or 3-1-3 declension. We have already the knowledge of what does that mean: 3-1-3 declension and 2-1-2 declension. 3-1-3 declension means if you arrange the masculine, feminine, and neuter, then the 3-3 means the third declension one. Yeah, undergoes third declension, and then the middle one, if you identify the middle one is the feminine, then the feminine participle undergoes feminine declension. We have already discussed what does that mean. Feminine one means first declension. First declensions are feminine nouns, and this first declension are categorized under three: alpha, eta, and mixed endings. So we need to be take care about that one. Okay. Participle can modify noun. For example, if you will find in John 4:10 living water, then participle can modify noun. It living modifies water. Whereas the participle act like an attributive adjective, or it tells more about the noun, as we discussed before. Adjectives have three usages: attributive, predicative, and substantive. Like that of adjectives, then participles have also three usages. One of the usages is attributive usage. Then in our example, living water means the attributive of, or it attributes, or it tells more about the noun that it modifies. And if you see this, seeing the star, they rejoice. Seeing the star, they rejoice. What is the function of this? This tells about more about the verb, not about the noun. Since it tells more about the verb, it has the function of an adverb. Seeing the star, they rejoice. It is more. It tells more about the. It is connected to the main verb here, not the noun. Seeing the star, they rejoice. There is a participle describes an action connected to the subject and can often be translated with the temporal clause. If it is a present, then it will be when, while, or as. It is if you are present or present in the temporal, present can be also categorized and the temporal clause and the causal and so on. So if it is temporal, it is translated as when or why, but it must be the present participle in order to translate why or when or as on because or since. But in the case of as, we use another thing. So this is dual nature allows the part to convey nuanced relationship with the sentence. Okay. Anyway, the thing tells more about the verb. Then in this case, it is translated as while or when. Because they are adjectivals, as I said to you before, Greek participles are fully inflected for gender, number, and case, since nouns have similarity with that of adjectives. So this is a pattern of a noun. But since adjective modify a noun, it undergoes, it declines like that a noun. So like that of an adjective, participles are also undergo this pattern of this declension. Okay, because they are verbal, as I said before, tense and voice. But the tense is not a time, but the tense is simply the kind of the action, or in other words, this is simply an aspect. So Greek used three main participle tense form, as I said you before: present, aorist, and perfect. If the present participle is there, if we face the present participle, then the aspect is imperfect. The aspect is imperfect, it means it is not completed, or then this particle is imperfective aspect. We have already the knowledge of this, the aspect. We have imperfective, aristic, and perfective aspect. In terms of aspect, Greek verbs have three aspects: imperfective, aristic, and perfective. In terms of time, we have three times: present, future, and past. We have already know this and other things. So present participles are the imperfective aspect. Aorist is perfective aspect. But it is unique. The participle is unique here. Perfective aspect. The aspect is perfect. But you may expect that it's aoristic aspect. But the aspect is perfective in the case of participle. And in the case of perfect, you will have stative, each ending the kind of action. I have already discussed this one. Not the time of the action. Unlike Greek, English has pure participle forms and must rely on auxiliary verbs to express similar. Greek participles used for more frequently and flexible than in English, with the present and aorist participle being the most common. This makes them central feature of Greek syntax and an important tool for expressing detailed relationship between action with narrative. Let's start with the present Greek participle, as I have already discussed about that one. we have already, in terms of tense, we have 3 tenses in participles or participles undergo or functions with these 3 kinds of the action. In terms of tense, we are dealing with the kind of the action, or in other words, the aspect. So we have present, or else aorist, or else we have perfect. So present can be further divided into the active and the middle or passive, like our former classes. Then present active, the participle ends with on, and the feminine is ussa, and the neuter is on. So on ussa on, born ussa on. But take care about the pattern. The masculine undergoes third declension, the feminine undergoes first declension, neuter undergoes third declension. So we have the pattern of 3-1-3 declension. So present active have the pattern of 3-1-3 declension pattern. You know this 3-1-3 means third declension nouns are identified by their, or the stem is identified by the genitive singular of the third declension, now whether it is masculine or feminine or neuter. So since once the stem is identified, then the rest is simply adding the stem format discussed before. So present stem is 1, then ussa. That's the feminine undergoes the mixed ending. Since it is first declension now, then it undergoes one of the first declension pattern, whether eta, alpha, or mixed. But it is always follows that of mixed in, like that of doxa. Okay, the neuter undergoes third declension now, so we know the knowledge of what are the third declension noun endings. Whereas that of the present, middle, or passive, like that of our former lesson, present, middle, or passive have similarities. The middle and the passive voice have similar, but it is determined by whether the middle or whether we are using the middle or the passive. It is determined by the context. You don't have any identifying marker. So it undergoes the 2-1-2 declension. That means the masculine and the neuter undergoes second declension. This is the easiest declension. And still the feminine undergoes the first declension with the eta ending, or eta ending, as we already discussed what exactly eta ending is. We know that. Okay, how do we memorize? As I told you before, just memorize, restating again and again. Just, I think in your textbook, you may be challenged to understand this whole thing, but have minimized and expanded a little bit here. This is, I think, ይሄ የተሻለ ሆኖ ስላገኘሁት በዚህ መንገድ አዘጋጅቼዋለሁ። እያንዳንዱን ካየነው አይከብደንም። ሶ አሁን ስንት ነገሮች አየን ማለት ነው። ወን ኡሳውን ልክ ፐርሰን ነምበር ኢንዲንግ እንዳጠናነው ሁሉ ለፕሬዘንት አክቲቭ እና ለፕሬዘንት ሚድል እና ፓሲቭ የትኛውን ኢንዲንግ ይወስዳል ፓሲቭ የሚለው ነገር በዛው እናጠናለን ማለት ነው። ለሶስት ቴንሶች አሉ። አንዱ ፕሬዘንት ነው፣ አንዱ ኤሪስት ነው፣ አንዱ ፐርፌክት ነው። ፕሬዘንት ፐርፌክት ማለታችን ነው። ኤሪስት ስንል ደግሞ ፈርዘር እንከፋፍለዋለን። ያ ኤሪስቱን ፈርስት ኤሪስ፣ ሰከንድ ኤሪስ እያልን ደግሞ ፈርዘር ብሬክዳውን እናደርገዋለን። ምንድነው ዩኒክ ፊቸራቸው? ሁሉንም ኮመን የሚያደርጋቸው ነገር ምንድን ነው? ስቴፕ 5 አሁን በዚህ ደረጃ ምን አይተናል? ፕሬዘንት ካየን ስለዚህ ይሄ ማለት የኖሚኔቲቭ ሲንጉላቸው ነው። እዚያ የምታገኙት ለምሳሌ ሎን ኢዝ ሉዚንግ ሲምፕሊ loan is losing, lose side is having left since lose side is I think this one is the aorist. Lose side. Sorry, this one is a feminine singular, lose side. This one is the nominative singular, lose side. Then the Lusas is the plural one. Anyway, this one is the loan being loan. So just add stem plus this person number. Sorry, this participle index, present active, and that of the present medieval passive menos mene menon. Menos mene menon. This is os. Since it undergoes second declension now, then this one and that now is neuter. So this is similar to that of this one, unless in the nominative singular and plural and accusative singular and plural. The rest is the dative and the genitive is similar to that of the second declension now. So just revise the formal lesson and then start to decline using this. The example is given L'omenos, L'omene, and L'omenon. Then start declension. I think you have the full declension is in your textbook. So you are supposed to do your declension. So just start nominative singular, nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative, whether it is plural, then follow the rule and then start decline and practice that one. Okay. So how do we memorize? I think this is a memorative. Masculine and neuter participle generally of the present active follows the declension noun. I have already discussed that one. 3-1-3 declension already discussed. And the feminine follows the first declension with a mixed ending. And does that mean mixed ending? Mixed ending is the mixture of alpha and beta. We have already discussed about this. It goes like the doxa type. So just the eta is in the genitive and dative, and that of the nominative and accusative are the alpha ending, and that's why this is a mixture of eta and alpha. Then just this is a numerative. Then present middle, as I said to you before, then it follows the first and second declension pattern. Which one is the first and which one is the second? The first declension now I have already discussed the eta. This one is the eta ending, and this is the second declension, is the most easiest one, and this one is easier than the rest. mixed ending and the alpha ending. Yeah. Okay. This is a tip. Because main is added. Main is added, but if you subtract main from this, or if you will find os and on. This is one of the pattern of second declension now. So there is always menos is added. Main is added before the connecting vowel. So you will notice that if you find the main next to the connecting vowel and os, this is rightly determine the present middle or passive participle. So you should be translate, or you should translate that as a participle, making the ing form of that verb. Okay. Present middle or passive, I have already discussed that one. But what about the that of the verb to be, or any verb? Like that of the present active, the verb to be also undergoes, or the any verb undergo 3-1-3 declension. To be, in order to find the verb which is easiest one. Just this one is the ending, and if you insert the smooth breathing mark over there, it will be the verb to be. This is the easiest one. The rest is just the declension of 3-1-3 declension pattern of this one sound. But the difference is there is no smooth breathing mark over there. So the only difference in the smooth breathing mark, smooth breathing mark is there. So in other place you will find this smooth breathing mark. This is a fully for example, if you decline lu on, but you must subtract this smooth breathing mark. And lu ontos, lu onses, lu ontos, lu onti, lu onsi, lu onter, lu onti, lu onta, lu osas, lu osan, and so on. It will be like that. If you form the plural one, lu ontes, is 3-1-3 declension. This third declension now, this is also third declension now. And this is similar. So the rest is governed by the general rule. The third declension nouns patterns are commonly used. So this is the rule that we rightly discern. So if you apply this all things, and then if you add the smooth breathing mark, you will find the 3-1-3 declension, and then you will find the end verb. And the end verb is simply being. Okay. How to recognize it quickly? Many forms look like ending standing alone. As I said before, a smooth breathing mark and accent is added over there. When you see such a form, it is always a participle of me, meaning as a present participle with being, because never form. We don't have any middle or passive form of any verb. Then we have already, we have only have the active form. Okay. How do we parse? We know that parsing means identifying these things, as we already know what are the participles. How do we form the participles? They are verbal adjectives, so they have the characters of verb and noun. So from the adjective or noun, they take the voice, for example, is taken from the adjectival, and that of the gender is also taken from, and that of the case This is derived from their adjectival characteristics and that of the verbal characteristics. We will find the tense. The tense is only the aspect, only the mood. The mood is a particle, since particle is one of the mood. We have already the knowledge of the indicative mood and the other moods. Particles are categorized under other moods. So one of the other moods that we start today with the passive. The other is the infinitive and optative and imperatives are the categorized under the other moods. So we have two kinds of moods, indicative and other moods. Other moods are categorized or subdivided into participles, infinitives, imperatives, and optative. So you will have the mood is the one of the non-indicative mood. This one is participle. The symbol is PTC, participle. The mood is participles, and the rest is both the verbal and the adjectival characteristic of the participle. We have also the lexical form. The lexical form. This is the participle is derived from the verb. So you should put the lexical form. Living water. It can be derived from also from the noun, from the verb as well as from the noun. But for example, law is a verb that participle is formed, law. So you should put the lexical form or the dictionary meaning of the dictionary form or the root of that participle here, lexical form. Lo menos, for example. Lo is a lexical form. Menos is as menais. Menais is added. Ontos, we have already this. Just if you find this particle lonely, the ending only, then it's most breathing the mouth with the accent, then it's categorized under verb to be. So we have many things that's the participles during parsing. We have 6, 7, or 8 things are there. You have the form, the participle form, we have lexical form, we have tense, we have voice, we have mood, we have gender, case, and number. So parsing means identifying all things. So a single participle have these things. Lexical form is a word, tense is the aspect only. In terms of tense, we have present tense, aorist tense, and perfect tense. Voice, we have three voice, as we discussed before. Active voice, middle voice, and passive voice. Mood, this is non-indicative. It is categorized under participle. We have gender, case, and number. Okay. So putting this all identifying these all things, we call it a person. Okay, what are the uses of participles? As we discussed before, like that of adjective, participles have 3 uses. Like that of a verb, participles have 3 aspects. So when we are discussing about the use of participle, we are discussing about the 3 uses of we are comparing the to that 3 uses of adjectives. So attributive means there, for example, participles have attributive usage, modifies a noun directly without in front. We have already for anthropos, for agathos from our former lesson. For anthropos, for agathos. the good, the person. This is one of the attributive position, or anthropos or agathos. So like that of the attributive adjective, participles have also they have their own attributive usage. In this case, it is translated as who or which, but they care about the article. The article must be in front of the participle. Sorry, in front of the noun. Okay, for example, pater or blepo. Pater means the father. Blepo, blepon, this one is on. This one is a participle. In this case, just translate who or which. How do we discern which is for the thing or who is for a person? So who is used in feminine and masculine gender and which is used for neutral gender? 127. Who is used for the masculine singular? Who is the article? And is used for masculine singular. So this is rightly discern who. It must be translated as. Who sees, the father who sees. So